Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Elephant Exposed. I am your host, CJ Jones, and we are having our final show of 2023. My co-host, Mr. Dwayne Stinson, how are you doing?
Good, my brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing real. I like that whole. Yes, sir. Okay. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it because we do have a what I call a well-deserved update. All right. So
Right.
we're just gonna jump right on into it. Here we go. Oh boy. And I gotta do my share screen first. How about that, huh? So we are here. All right, here we go.
This morning, a guilty verdict for the two paramedics charged in Elijah McClain's death. Both Peter Chikuniak and Jeremy Cooper found guilty of criminally negligent homicide, and Chikuniak found guilty of second-degree assault. The jury, finding Chikuniak unlawfully ordered an excessive dose of ketamine, a powerful sedative. All of this as officers held the 23-year-old down in an Aurora, Colorado suburb, walking home from a convenience store 4 years ago.
And my job is to stand up for what's right.
McClain's mother, Shanine McClain, Instagramming this emotional video ahead of the verdict.
What happened to my Sunday night was not about common sense, y'all. It was not about protocols. It was not about training.
One of the paramedics saying this about the moments after police placed McClain in a chokehold. They said they had to use ketamine because he appeared to exhibit signs of excited delirium.
This was more excited delirium than just an aggressive patient. Ketamine is the one drug of choice that we can use to help that.
But prosecutors firing back, making the case that ketamine was not necessary.
He was gasping and gurgling. He was pleading for help. A visual assessment was not enough.
Loved ones remembering McClain as a gentle soul who played the violin. Police had received a report about someone sketchy when they stopped him, but the prosecution said he was just walking home.
Stop. Stop. I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious.
McClain's mother said he wore a ski mask because his anemia made him feel cold.
What this verdict really says to the general society, each person has to take accountability and be responsible for what their role is and how they interact with the individual that is subject to the search, the stop, or the seizure.
I saw those two police officers in the video with McClain. Well, one of those officers was found guilty in this case and he lost his job. The other one was acquitted and returned to work with $200,000 in back pay. As for the paramedics, a sentencing date has been set for March 1st.
March 1st.
Doreen Shaw, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Okay. And we will try to be on top of that. I'm gonna go ahead. It's set up to run again because there's a couple of things that stood out to me in this video. I want to share with the audience, D. But before I do that, let's go ahead and get your initial reaction off of just what you heard.
I'm not too familiar with this case, but
Okay.
I will say that the common denominator in a lot of these unwarranted calls and a lot of these cases is the word suspicious. You know, it's like a black man being in the wrong, quote unquote, wrong neighborhood that's just a little something you can throw out there, suspicious. You know, think about the one of the first ones that we heard of, Trayvon Martin, suspicious. You know, he's walking home with some Skittles and I think a Sprite or something.
Right.
You know, in his dad's neighborhood, suspicious. You know, that's another key word like fear. You know, a lot of times law enforcement, I was scared. I feared for my life. You know, that's just, another BS. But I'll let you get into it. But I wasn't I didn't quite hear. One of the officers got $200,000 in back pay.
Right.
And
because
one of them,
he was one of the backup. Like, okay, so I'm very familiar with this. This is one of my earlier videos, and I don't remember you being co-host with me just yet when I did cover this. Because
Oh, okay.
this one really hit home with me and Mrs. T and TBS. When this news broke, because we have special needs family members. And so
Mhm.
when we saw what they did to this young man, um, it just went all through us emotionally.
Mhm.
And I remember I was heated, and I remember I probably said some few choice words and everything else because
Mhm.
this was like me, like I said, I have a special needs niece, um, and three nephews that are special needs, and just because they appear to be like regular functioning, they you just never know who you're coming across. And this is
Mhm.
why professionalism is needed at all times, regardless as to who the person is. Um, you don't know if you're coming across a person that's in need or whatnot, but this right here was just all kinds of biased behavior. Um,
Yeah.
Elijah being handled basically stereotypically, and an officer that was power tripping and everything else because this young man is going to do what he said because he wears the badge and he's in charge and so forth and everything. And um, as you can see, this was back in 2019. So we've been waiting a while
Right.
for.
And isn't it ironic that he was targeted for wearing the ski mask, and right when COVID hit, ski mask became pretty much normal attire for everybody.
Yes, sir.
You know, it was it was amazing to me sometimes to see people walking around with ski masks on. It was like, wow, this is but I digress. That's neither here nor there. But and another thing I would point out is this didn't even get a whole lot of national attention. I mean, it probably did when it first hit, but it didn't stay. It wasn't one of the ones that people marched for. One of the ones that you saw on CNN. Every day type of thing. And
Right.
that just goes to show the regularity that these things happen. You know what I'm saying? Like
Or the I I'm somewhere between using the word callousness or just
Mhm.
basically people have just become desensitized
Right, right.
to
No.
the maltreatment of Black people, period. Um,
Mhm.
even if you look at other nationalities and other people from other countries, they have issues of colorism. But I don't want to get into that just yet. I want to stay with this one because you brought up some triggering words that you would often hear these stereotypical uh phrases being said for law enforcement to quote unquote get away with what they
Mhm.
are trying to do. And I'm glad you brought up the two or three that you just did. I'm gonna bring up another one. This one was excited delirium. Now
Yeah,
that
I heard
sounds
that. I
like
heard that.
something very important, but yeah, those are typical phrases that you would hear law enforcement bring up to justify what they are doing,
Hmm.
to um I say draw sympathy for the brutality of them handling someone that typically don't look like them, don't talk
Hmm.
like them, don't
Hmm.
walk like them, and so forth. Because
Hmm.
we've seen video after video, time after time, how whenever someone look like they do, when
Hmm.
someone talk like they talk, when they see a younger or older version of themselves, even when these individuals carry weapons.
Hmm. Oh
Like
yeah.
this one video, and I was going to do it as a part. I'm gonna try to go back and find it. where this one police officer was literally, he went through his whole entire level of force, all with the exception of using his firearm, in which he actually had justification to use his firearm, and he did not do it.
Oh, I've seen several like that.
Was
I've seen them.
actually chased back.
Yeah,
his,
I've seen them where they end up getting shot. I saw one where the dude beat two cops up and took the car. I mean, you
so
know.
we cannot say, and so when people say this and they say, oh, well, that's just what, different?
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course it's different.
Right.
Of course it's different because that man didn't look like, because those men look like you. They look like your uncle. They look like your brother. They look like your cousin, you know. And so that, therefore, you automatically gave them grace. You gave them the what we call the benefit of the doubt, so to speak. And you didn't want to take their life. Well, you should be that way always as police officers. So now, but we're here. And so now, come what they say, March 1st, we're going to see. We're going to really see. And so right now, we just want to update our followers and just let them know that we had not forgot about Mr. Elijah McClain. And if you are not familiar with what happened to him, because there are a lot of videos from police cams and everything else to show you what happened. It is, you know, normally we'll say, okay, this is a hard watch, but I'm telling you, that to me was a very hard watch to see and to hear. His video, as far as audible goes, his video was far clearer than any other video I've heard. I mean, it was clearer than George Floyd. Like, you could literally hear him say, like, I'm uncomfortable. You're scaring me. Da, da, da. I mean, and he's talking when they was allowing him to talk. And you can tell just by even his tone of his voice, hey, he might be special needs.
That's crazy. Well, that's just like another keyword would be aggressive. They seem to be aggressive.
He was aggressive, resisting.
Anytime you stand up for yourself, or you ask questions, or you refuse to do something because you know your rights, it's deemed as being aggressive with us. If we don't comply right away, and as a grown man, you know, of course you want to obey the law, but a lot of times as a grown man, you like, I got rights too. Or what am I being arrested for? Why do you want me to get out the car? Why do I need to put my hands behind my back? Am I being detained? No, I don't have to show you my license. All those things are considered aggressive when it comes to us. When it comes to them, they just well educated on their rights. I've seen several videos where, you know what I'm saying, a white person do it and they end up leaving. I done seen black people do it. I done seen them bust the window and drag people out the car.
Oh yeah, the one that happened here in North Carolina with the highway patrolman, and it happened to be right up the street, going towards Salisbury. The black grandma, like well up in her 70s. I want to say she was 74. Drugged out of her car, slung down to the ground by her hair. By her hair, my guy. And so this is why sometimes, like, it's a challenge for me as being the host of Elephant Exposed to do some of these shows, because it hit home with me in many, 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 many ways. Like, you and I have had you know, off-camera discussions as to, like, what it's like to be a black man and what it's like to be a former police officer. And, you know, I sit in a very unique position to give people the realness of, you know, and to basically to translate police, law enforcement lingo and tell you what they're really saying, like negligent homicide. Now that sounds all fancy, but basically what it means is that they had no regard for killing this young man. That's it, in a bowl. But basically what we would call it by law is, another way to say it is second-degree murder.
Right.
See, you can't call it murder because of the definition. See, murder is accompanied with intent. And intent is very, very hard to prove. But they still need to be held accountable. So then they drop the murder word and put homicide. And then instead of and to accompany homicide, to prove, well, we didn't really mean to kill him because we either skipped a step or we overdone it, then they say negligent, which means you didn't practice what we call due regard. Due regard.
How many you just ripped off about 3 or 4 names for murder. You got first degree, right? You got second degree. Then you have manslaughter. Then you have negligent manslaughter. You got vehicular manslaughter.
Yes.
Is there any other words that they have for
a lot?
A lot.
A lot. Because it all depends on your lawyer and how much they're trying to protect you.
Wow. And
I'm just being real with you.
That seems like I don't know, it just seems like a game sometimes. And then, you know what, that's why I think that, and it's unfortunate, but I think that's why we need more diversity in our law enforcement, because when you're policed by people that look like you and that understand you, then we know, hey, he just mad. He ain't gonna do nothing. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, he just tripping right now. Or
understands the culture, because unfortunately, sometimes just because we share the same skin color doesn't mean that they share the same views.
That's true too. But it's accentuated and it's magnified by people that are from the other side of town that's coming to the hood.
Yes.
And they already got these preconceived notions, like we've talked about before. Yes. You cannot untrain stereotype. You cannot understand untrain a supremacy
culture.
You know,
right. A culture.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of white people have, even if they don't try to, they have ingrained in them just a feeling of superiority sometimes, just because that's what I mean. To be honest with you, if you've been in America, both of us about 50, that America teaches us that we're number 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at the dolls, look at the TV, now things are starting to get better as far as media and advertising, but being in America, anybody that's our age or a little bit younger, you just been taught that Black people are this way and white people are this way. And so when it comes down to it and your life is quote unquote on the line, you're going to revert back to your real feelings. The training that you took, you might have got 100 on that test. You know what I'm saying? You might have got exemplary, scores and everything. But when it's to the nitty gritty, and it's time for you to make that decision, you're gonna go with what your gut tells you. And too many times these guys are reverting back to things that, you know what I'm saying?
That come from their culture.
Right.
Right. You're absolutely right. And with that, my brother, I would say we can put a wrap on this, man. Before we let you guys go, I want to take the time out to thank all of our subscribers that have been with us since day one, and our very brand new subscribers. Thank you very much for joining us here on Elephant Exposed. And it means the world to us. And we want to encourage you guys to stay with us. We will continue to talk about topics like this and even more. We'll try to bring you updates as they come across. And please keep your ear out for March the 1st concerning our Mr. Elijah McClain's case about those paramedics being held accountable for their sentencing. We do not rejoice in anyone's calamity, but there needs to be a reckoning for accountability.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, until next time, guys, take care and Happy New Year.
Peace.